Hello everyone. I'm recording this right after my AI video, and I know I still am very irate. Hopefully I can be at least a little bit more measured in this video. Again, I'm sorry if anything of what I said in that video pissed anybody off, or if I got any details wrong. Again, the comments are your best friend. Let's begin.
According to the PE bankruptcy report, private equity was responsible for 54% of the largest bankruptcies in 2025.
Private equity was responsible for 54% of the largest bankruptcies in 2025, so more than half.
While fueling a credit bubble double the size of what triggered the Great Recession. And with institutional investors,
7.6 million potential institutional ownership of single-family rental homes in 2030. Wait, in 2030, there's going to be 7.6 million, single-family owned rental homes?
Set to own 40% of single-family homes by 2030.
40%? By 2030, 40% of homes are going to be bought up?
Economists warn Gen Z will now enter a generational recession, raising the question, how has Gen Z's future been gutted to nothing more than a monthly subscription? While Gen Z is entering adulthood during the most expensive housing market in history,
let me see that graph again. I want to see that graph again.
Subscription. While Gen Z...
So we've got, from 1990, median sales price of houses sold in the US is about 2023, it seems like, almost 2023.
Is entering adulthood during the most expensive housing market in history, a cost of living crisis, and a collapsing job market, with economic warning signs increasingly resembling the conditions that led to the global financial crisis. The reality is that this endless selling out
Richest 1% controls more wealth than at any time in 50 plus years
of the nation's future can be traced back to the systemic expansion of private equity, a system built on the idea that you will own nothing and be expected to be happy about it. In the 1980s, private equity firms, then more commonly known as leveraged buyout specialists, earned the barbarians at the gate nickname through aggressive takeover tactics that disrupted traditional corporate America and symbolized Wall Street's era of excess and greed. Changes to banking regulations, tax policies that favored corporate debt, and the rise of junk bonds allowed investors to raise billions of dollars to acquire companies through leveraged buyouts. This is how leveraged buyouts work. Say this is the bank, this is the company, and I represent private equity. I see that this business needs financial assistance of, say, $100. Rather than using my own $100 to buy or restructure the company, I put in only about 10% or $10 and go to the bank to borrow the remaining 90% or $90. But instead of the debt being tied to me, it is instead placed on the company.
Placed on the company.
So in order to pay off this enormous amount of debt, the company often cuts costs by selling assets, laying off workers, or restructuring parts of the business so it appears more profitable on paper.
It appears more profitable on paper, but they still have to pay off that debt, and they still have shrunk as well.
Once the company stabilizes, I can then take out another loan and pay myself through what is called dividend recapitalization.
Pay off... Wait. What do you say?
I can then take out another loan and pay...
Okay, once the company stabilizes, you can take out another
myself
loan.
Through what is called dividend recapitalization, meaning the company takes on even more debt while I receive a large cash payout and go repeat the process all over again, leaving the losses to be socialized through bankruptcy while the profits remain private. Between 1980 and 1989, leveraged buyouts in the United States surged from roughly $1 billion per year to more than $60 billion before the bubble collapsed in the early 1990s. As firms attempted to rebrand themselves from the reputation of corporate raiders, they increasingly adopted the term private equity. Yet despite the rebranding, leveraged buyouts only continued to expand. Rather than using their own capital for the equity portion of these deals, private equity firms began raising massive investment funds from pensions and university endowments while borrowing the remaining capital from banks and credit markets, allowing the industry to grow at unprecedented rates while the risk shifted onto public assets. Today, the top 5 private equity firms control assets under management.
Blackstone. Yeah, Blackstone. Assets under management, 1.2 trillion. Year established, 1985.
Larger than the economies of 180 countries, including Japan and India, granting them the ability to gut
Blackstone's major divisions share total assets of under management.
Housing,
multi-asset investing, credit and insurance, private equity, real estate. Interesting.
healthcare, and job opportunities, all in the pursuit of shareholder profits. While more than 1 million Americans lost their jobs in retail as a result of private equity takeovers between 2009 and 2019.
Sorry, I don't mean to keep pausing it so much. I just want to make sure that I understand this. So, Thousands of jobs have been lost at US private equity-backed companies, and nowhere is this more acute than in the retail sector. In less than a decade, almost 600,000 retail jobs in private equity-backed companies have been lost. Additionally, over 700,000 jobs have been lost at suppliers and local businesses interconnected with those retailers, making the total number of people unemployed 1.3 million. You can't say that you're creating jobs at data centers and then have shit like this happening. You gotta be kidding me.
Jobs in retail as a result of private equity takeovers between 2009 and 2019, with companies such as Toys R Us having become the poster child, being saddled with more than $5 billion in debt.
I remember Toys R Us being saddled with more than $5 billion in debt.
And ultimately laying off over 33,000 workers. The unfortunate reality is that...
Welcome to the age of polyworking, the multi-job revolution led by Gen Z. Rising US inflation is leading many workers to take on multiple jobs to meet expenses, and Gen Z is taking it to the extremes. Meanwhile, we have social media and media in general talking shit about Gen Z, saying how we're lazy and that we don't want to do anything and that we're entitled. I wonder why.
With a collapsing job market and rising cost of living, Gen Z is increasingly dependent on the same low-wage service and retail jobs that private equity is aggressively gutting. In the consumer discretionary sector, private equity-backed companies accounted for more than 71% of the largest bankruptcies in 2025. Even in manufacturing, an industry the United States is essentially taxing Americans billions of dollars trying to bring back,
Wait, what? Impact of tariffs. Federal Reserve Bank, the Universal... Okay, yeah. We find that nearly 90% of the tariffs' economic burden fell on U.S. firms and consumers. Are you for real? 71% of the largest bankruptcies in 2025. Wait.
Private equity-backed companies accounted for more than 71% of the largest bankruptcies in 2025.
So in 2025, private equity companies are responsible for 71% of the largest bankruptcies?
Even in manufacturing, an industry the United States is essentially taxing Americans billions of dollars trying to bring back, private equity-backed firms accounted...
Right. Yeah, my taxes did get raised because of this. So the common person is paying so much in taxes to fund this. What the hell?
For roughly 60% of the largest bankruptcies, reflecting the rate at which job opportunities for a generation already defined by underemployment and a lack of entry-level jobs are being systemically eliminated. And while the average leverage buyout results in an 18% reduction in wages, the results of this endless greed could not be more visible than in the nation's housing market. The United States currently faces a housing shortage of roughly 5 million homes, alongside a shortage of 7.2 million affordable and available rental units.
70% of home buyers priced out of market. So even if you do eventually find a home, it may not even be within your price range.
But rather than address this shortage, private equity firms such as Blackstone have begun rapidly building entire communities with the sole intention of renting them out. Build-to-rent
Short-term housing again.
homes have risen 134% since 2019, representing the fastest growing segment in residential development and accounting for roughly 8 to 15% of all single-family housing starts in the United States. And private equity is also consuming one of the last remaining sources of affordable housing.
It's going to get to a point where in order to have a home, you have to have a job. Imagine that. They already give you a company car, now there's a company home. And if you say something that the company doesn't like, they raise your rent. Disciplinary action. What the fuck?
Manufactured homes. In 2020 and 2021, institutional investors accounted for 23% of all manufactured home park purchases in the United States, with just 23 private equity firms controlling more than 1,800 parks across the country, representing over 400,000 lots.
Whoa, what?
All manufactured home park purchases in 2021, institutional investors accounted for 23% of all manufactured home park purchases in the United States, with just 23 private equity firms controlling more than 1,800 parks across the country.
23 firms controlling 1,800 parks across the country. Just 23 control this much.
Representing over 400,000 lots. In Michigan alone, private equity owns roughly 25% of all manufactured housing, ultimately raising rents by more than 45%. And with first-time homebuyers now at their lowest level in nearly 50 years,
So even if you do everything traditionally, you won't get a house till you're 40? Not unless you go into some crazy job in a crazy field. But even then, the job market is terrible. So even after you go through college and go through everything that you're groomed to be told to do since young, go to college, get a good job, and finally buy a home, have a family, right? Traditional American dream. 38, almost 40. That's how long I have to wait.
You will spend roughly $145,000 on rent by the time they turn 30.
A recent study by Rent Cafe has revealed that Generation Z will spend an average of $145,000 on rent by the time they turn 30, which is a 14% increase compared to millennials' rental costs at the same age.
$145,000 on rent by the time they turn 30, effectively giving up on home ownership less than a decade after graduating college. And while private equity has already wiped out hundreds of thousands of jobs and raised rents on hundreds of thousands of homes, these firms have now shifted their attention towards industries that people desperately rely on to survive.
After watching the last video about AI data centers, this just seems way too intentional. It seems like it's an oligopoly working together to keep pushing us into this future where we have to rely on these companies just to get anything done in our lives. I mean, I can't sit here and pretend like I don't feel like this is all intentional. I mean, they're bankrupting other industries. They're sucking up jobs. They're buying up all the land and the housing just so that they can rent it off and clutch their pearls and not allow it to be sold. This can't be an accident.
And while private equity has already wiped out hundreds of thousands of jobs and raised rents on hundreds of thousands of homes, these firms have now shifted their attention towards industries that people desperately rely on to survive. Most notably, healthcare. Private equity firms have invested well over $1 trillion in US healthcare over the past decade.
Guys, try to eat healthy. Try. If you can't, I get it. I get it. Times are tough out there. But if you can, please eat healthy as best as you can. I mean, it's not even... I don't even know if it's possible to eat healthy anymore. Almost everything is infected in this country. But pestilence is real. The food you eat, the things you do every day, it may trend towards a health decline. And then you'll be cattle being extracted for everything you're worth in your later years. Health is a business. What do they do with that business? They keep you unhealthy so that you have to keep paying and paying to fix problems that keep happening and happening because they groomed you into being that way. Watch what you eat.
Across sectors such as hospitals, behavioral health, nursing homes, ambulance services, and medical staffing, often leaving these systems with enormous amounts of debt. Research has linked private equity ownership of hospitals to a 13.4% increase in emergency department deaths and a 2.7% rise in 30-day postoperative mortality, as the very people responsible for life or death situations are increasingly treated as costs to be minimized, including salary cuts of nearly 18% and an 11.6% drop in full-time emergency department staffing. Patients at private equity-owned hospitals also experience roughly 27% higher falls and 38% more central line infections, while private equity-owned nursing homes have been linked to higher mortality and infection rates, all due to chronic understaffing, where private equity-owned companies accounted for 44% of the largest healthcare bankruptcies in 2025 and 88% in 2024.
Understaffing, huh? Understaffing. There's so much to that.
And while there are countless ways this system affects younger generations, with nearly 25% of Gen Z already skipping recommended medical treatments due to rising costs.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, guys. I haven't been to the doctor in years. I haven't been to the dentist in years. Luckily, I take care of myself. Luckily, I know how to take care of myself. But that's still not good. In fact, I still need glasses, but I can't afford them.
It could not be more obvious that in the United States, the health of Americans does not come even remotely close to shareholder profits. And just as private equity consumed the healthcare industry, it is now turning its attention towards the nation's food supply. While the meatpacking industry is already facing extreme consolidation, with just 4 firms controlling roughly 60% of U.S. chicken production.
4 firms only controlling 60% of poultry. 4 firms controlling 70% of pork, and 4 firms controlling 80 to 85% of beef. And I see Tyson on all 3, JBS on all 3.
production, the top 4 beef processors controlling roughly 85% of the market, and 4 pork packers producing roughly 70% of all output, private equity has begun implementing leveraged buyouts among struggling family farms, stripping the operations for profit on the balance sheet before ultimately selling the remaining assets to dominant meat packers for pennies on the dollar. And as family farms are being pushed out of business, 99% of farmed animals in the United States are now being raised in cruel factory farm conditions, despite roughly 3/4 of the public opposing those practices, ultimately setting the cost that my generation and future generations will be forced to bear as corporations continue squeezing every last cent out of the system at the expense of our careers, our homes, our health, and the treatment of animals. Which is why I want to share one way that I personally fight against the system and support a better future through FarmKind. FarmKind helps people support real change within the food system for animals, people, and the planet. What makes them different is they identify organizations with proven track records of improving animal welfare within industrial agriculture, evaluating measurable outcomes, cost efficiency, and verified impact to determine where each dollar can produce the greatest improvement. For instance, a recommended charity helped to increase cage-free egg production in the US from 10% to 40% over the past decade, while also directly targeting corporations, convincing McDonald's, Walmart, and Nestle to phase out caged eggs, allowing hens the basic ability to spread their wings, while also creating more opportunity for smaller humane farms to compete. Through their platform, you can explore the charities they recommend and choose the one you want to support, or donate to their impact fund, which targets several of the most harmful practices within industrial animal agriculture, all at the same time. They also show the real impact of each contribution. For example, as little as 50 cents a day, or about $15 a month, can help improve the lives of nearly 350 animals each year. And because FarmKind itself is fully grant funded, 100% of your donation goes directly to those efforts. If you want to support work focused on the structural issues behind factory farming and the conditions that enable it, use the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen.
I'm sorry that I'm letting him, I don't know, sponsor or whatever it may be, but I do think it's a good cause. So I'm just letting it play because of that.
And if you use code Damon_C, reoccurring donations get a 50% boost. It was amazing to see how many of you responded last time that I spoke about FarmKind. So thank you all so much for helping push back against animal cruelty. And thank you, FarmKind, for supporting this channel. Alongside private equity gutting nearly every foundational aspect of American society that took decades of sacrifice and forward thinking from our great-grandparents, the next logical aspect in proving how much of a plague private equity has become is discussing how they are funneling immense amounts of debt into AI data centers. However, due to—
What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? Oh my god, what the fuck? Dude, this shit is a web. This shit is a fucking web.
Recent headlines, there is somehow an even more pressing concern: private credit. Private credit refers to loans made outside the traditional banking system, typically issued by private equity firms, asset managers, and specialized lending funds directly to companies that either cannot or do not want to borrow from banks. Today, this market is estimated to exceed $3 trillion.
In the $3 trillion private credit market, the shadow default rate is increasing as more money chases lower quality deals.
Roughly double the size of the subprime lending market that triggered the 2008 financial crisis.
Subprime lending market, subprime. They're just setting us up with debt even if we can't afford to take it on.
And of course, in traditional—
This is an oligopoly.
corporate circular financing fashion, many of these loans are extended to businesses that were already acquired through private equity buyouts, meaning the same firms that loaded companies with debt are now often the ones refinancing that debt through private credit funds. And because these loans operate largely outside traditional banking systems, or what is known as shadow banking, they face far less regulatory oversight, often involve weaker lending standards, and frequently rely on optimistic assumptions about future growth to justify the enormous amounts of debt, essentially meaning that we have no idea the magnitude of debt behind many of these deals. And just within the process of making this video, BlackRock was forced to limit investor withdrawals from one of its private credit funds after redemption requests exceeded available liquidity, signaling that while this may not be an immediate crisis, this is yet another warning sign of economic decay. And when a debt bubble is coupled with geopolitical conflict, creating uncertainty across global markets, while a growing number of borrowers are already struggling to meet payments, analysts are increasingly warning that if defaults accelerate, the same opaque financial system that fueled this massive lending boom could rapidly become the next major financial crisis. And while essentially—
Is everything going to be a financial crisis? It's always just, it's like I'm playing Minecraft and I'm riding a pig with a carrot and stick. The carrot and stick being a financial crisis and me being the fucking pig. Like I feel like it's always being hung over my head, dangling. Oh, dystopian buzzwords. Oh, it's fucking it's a dystopia. Oh, there's gonna be a financial crisis. Oh, there's gonna be a recession. There's gonna be this. There's gonna be that. And it's always in the next year, the next 5 years, the next decade. I'm sick of hearing about it. When is anything actually gonna improve?
Every American will be forced to pay the consequences of this rampant systemic greed. The unfortunate reality is that nearly every aspect of the American economy now appears to be in a tight race for the first bailout, just as Gen Z is entering adulthood. A bailout that will come from a government already straddled with unprecedented levels of debt, and with a generation that is economically behind in nearly
Gen Z has 86% less purchasing power than baby boomers did in the 20s. Yet we're the ones being blamed for everything.
every measurable metric, having its concerns dismissed with the same tired accusations of laziness and entitlement.
Yes, bro, yes. I'm tired of being blamed for not being hardworking, for being entitled. I'm sick of it. Even my own family tells me this.
At the end of the day, Gen Z is the one staring down the barrel of the life of owning nothing and being forced to be. And while I could certainly sit here and be just like every other news report or media outlet and say, you know, we're not quite at crisis level yet, or I could go as far as say, the economy is still robust and we are weathering the storm. At some point, when are we going to pull our heads out of the sand and recognize that there is no incentive for things to get better? I should not be able to pull a straw out of a hat and have every single straw be a signal for some sort of economic catastrophe. Whether it's the job market, it's AI, it's...
Wait, it's all connected. It's all connected. That's why like this, think of America as an orchard. There's seeds being sowed everywhere, and these seeds are weeds. Every time you pluck one weed, you see how all of the roots are connected to every single other weed inside of the orchard. Like, so many things point north, but north is hell.
the car market, it's private equity, it's private credit, it's what's happening in agriculture, it's what's happening with our infrastructure, it's our national debt, it's geopolitical conflict. It's
The more I keep seeing, the more videos I keep watching, the more I keep learning, the more I keep trying to understand. Like, this is difficult to understand. I didn't want to try to understand this stuff, but I'm passionate about it because this is going to affect the future. This is affecting my generation. This is going to affect the future generations even worse than before. And I have no value. I see how other people may not even have value. What do I have? What am I gonna have? So much power is being funneled into the top. And all we get are scraps? Less than that?
non-stop. And when you're a young person, how are you supposed to be able to build some sort of foundation when the foundation, not only the foundation that you're building on top of is quickly being, outsourced and sold off for pieces and parts, but it's rotten. It's just greed and corruption. It's disgusting. But what I want to do is I want to put...
He's saying the same things I'm saying. I'm at a point where I've lost it. Over the next few days, the next few weeks, my next few videos are going to be very, very interesting. I feel like I'm under pressure now because these things beget internal change. So watching all of these videos, I'm seeing how I need to act now, especially when I have short-term ruin as well. That's for me to handle.
Let's put ourselves in the shoes of a private equity firm. Clearly, I have no morals, no empathy, no compassion, no desire to see anything get better. And while you might be saying, well, it's not a real thing, so how could it feel these things? I think that we have to remember that it's being run by people. The people at the head of the company, the shareholders, whatever it is still people that are making the decisions to do what it is that they're doing. And they're doing it for money. They're doing it for endless profit, for consumption, for greed. So it is people. And because we're doing all of these things for shareholder profits without any sort of limit or cap, why would I not continuously gut and remove and consume everything humanly possible with every warning sign around me? Why would I not do it when I know I'm going to get bailed out? when I know I will pay zero consequences?
No, nobody knows this, and he's right about this. He's absolutely right about this. If I felt like I was in a position where anything I did, I didn't have to pay the ramifications of, there were no consequences for me, of course, it's a no-brainer that I'm gonna do what I'm doing. But the problem is like, this money isn't even guaranteed. This bailout isn't even guaranteed. This bailout is just trampling on the corpses of the people. It's not a bailout. It's sacrificing the lower, stepping on the corpses of the common person.
Not only that, if, say, America does collapse, well, I'll just move somewhere else. I have enough money to be able to weather the storm. Now, America isn't going to collapse. It probably is going to end up being some sort of like shell company, you know, corporate America. And it's going to be just like a leveraged buyout. Consume it, put as much debt as you possibly can, strip it for pieces and parts, leave the people that can't afford to leave to have to deal with the consequences, move off somewhere else. You know, it was just... The way that I prepare for these videos is I read different things for about 3 hours a day. And then whenever I'm not at my desk working, I listen to whatever it is. It's either interviews or news report.
Okay, so you want to know how I prepare for my videos? I procrastinate until I get angry enough about procrastinating, and then I sit here on my lazy ass watching a really good content creator, other good content creators as well. I will try to make sure that in my last video, the data center video, I will try to credit the content creator there, because I usually like doing that. I don't want to be a parasite just like these data centers, right? Damon Cassidy, very beautiful guy, very amazing content creator. I love his videos. I think he's amazing, and he does put in a lot of work in what he's reading for 3 hours a day. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here just booting up YouTube and recording. So I mean, you know, follow me if you like me, right? Like, subscribe to me, like, or whatever, comment, do whatever you want. And I am willing to learn and put in more work into these videos, but I'm still trying to find my path and my way on YouTube. So it's just, I see how much passion he has, and I can't help but feel it too.
Or conferences, or, you know, you name it. For this video, it was just, you know, you hear stories of these pension funds that are $15 to $20 million. And they get liquidated all the way down to $3,000 because of private equity leverage buyouts that go to bankruptcy. Again, they're not putting in their own capital. They're putting in pension fund capital. These people work their entire lives for this money, for it to just get wasted. There was a video of a lady explaining how her manufactured home, how the rent on the lot went up $200 a month. And the guy asked her, "So what is your plan?" And she said, "I hope to not wake up tomorrow." That was her plan. You know, it's so sad. I'm very appreciative of what I'm about to say in terms of the support that you guys give. But one of the most common things that I see in the comment section of my videos is people saying, "Thank you for always remembering the little guy." And again, while I appreciate the support, like, I'm just doing what you should do. I'm doing the right thing. Like, this isn't something that I should be getting a medal for. I don't understand why do people not care?
Yeah. I see where he's coming from. This sounds like he's coming across as ungrateful for the support, but he's trying to say that why is it that he's getting praised for doing something that should be a standard? Why is he getting praised for pointing out things that should be obvious and should absolutely be stopped immediately, or at least taken into serious consideration of before we even do any of this? I agree with him too. Putting value in a congratulations or a good job or it's so great that you're doing this is putting value in the fruit instead of the flower. The flower being what he's doing right now, which is bringing attention to all of the stupidity that America's dealing with currently. While yes, we are very privileged to live here, and yes, we are living way better than the average person in, let's say, another third world country, no, I don't believe it's perfect, and no, do I think there isn't stuff that needs to be fixed, especially when it's absolutely not all sunshine and rainbows. Maybe it's better than other areas, but better doesn't mean best or good.
I look at other YouTube creators in my niche or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, my niche is dominated by private equity firms buying these YouTube channels. And I watch them talk about similar things that I talk about, knowing that they are bought by private equity, knowing that their script is written by AI, and that it's an AI voice that is doing the narration. And it's so soulless. It's so...
You've allowed yourself to become part of the problem. So now even content creation is being poisoned by this. An art form that I've loved since middle school. I've seen my art form be turned into a fruit instead of allowing people to value the flower. Remember the Streamer Awards? I thought it was gross. I'm gonna be honest. It felt like a marketing team trying to pretend to be Hollywood at the Oscars. It felt like a party of just a bunch of people rage baiting each other and howling at their own achievements, patting themselves on the back.
Fake. It's like you're no better than the very thing that you're attacking. How can you say how bad AI is when everything was made by AI? It's just for money. I don't know. I don't understand why more people aren't doing these things.
Because when resources are scarce, selfishness increases. They're out for themselves. Mr. Cassidy, you have to understand that you can't expect people to be altruistic. You can't expect people to be good-willed, especially when resources are scarce and when fear is very high. There's a lot of fear-mongering going on in the nation, and I'm not happy about it either. I think I agree with you. The right thing should be done. Just because something should be this way doesn't mean that it's going to happen. People will turn up their morals as soon as they see gain or as soon as they're threatened by something. The real mask is taken off once their selfishness is put to the test.
It just doesn't make sense to me. And I just think it's really sad. Like, there's so many people that are having their lives just be completely gutted. And again, you name it, pull the straw out of the hat. And it's costing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lives. And we're pretending everything's fine. So when it comes to something like private equity, or again, any of these major things that we're discussing, one person is not going to be able to fix it. Private equity, again, they were called barbarians at the gate. Private equity has been destroying us for 20 years, 30 years.
I mean, I feel like I grew up with 20 things messing up my life for about 20 years. Like, how many of... Oh my god, I'm so stunned locked that I can't even speak properly. You know, I speak very fast because I need to get it out before I start losing what I'm saying. It's so frustrating seeing this happen. And it's only intensified by the stress and the anger that I have in real life. Most of it internal and also a lot of it external. So seeing videos like this, I see how I lost my point that I'm trying to fucking say, bro.
Private equity has been destroying us for 20 years, 30 years.
So it's what I'm hearing and what I'm saying is further intensified by my emotions currently as they are now. But also I'm starting to realize so much shit has been working in the background of my life, and now I'm finally starting to see it. You mean to tell me I should have bought a home at 8 years old just to be able to pay it off now? From birth, we're coerced into receiving a terrible education and groomed to go follow this traditional dream that isn't even real anymore.
This video isn't going to change that. I understand that it's not going to do that. The important thing is that we cannot allow all of the corruption around us to give us the excuse to not show up in our own life. What I really believe in is this compounded effect of hope, or compounded effect of change. Robert F. Kennedy called it a small ripple of hope. I believe that if we do things in our own life, that we can directly make an impact. Not only does it force us to be present and living in our lives, but it gives the opportunity for somebody else to recognize it and decide, I'm going to lead in my life. I'm going to impact.
So he's saying lead by example. I believe that's what he's trying to say here. Let me make sure.
And living in our lives. I can believe that if we do things in our own life, that we can directly make an impact. Not only does it force us to be present and living in our lives, but it gives the opportunity for somebody else to recognize it and decide, I'm going to lead in my life, or I'm going to impact my environment, or I'm going to have some sort of change.
I'm going to be honest, guys. I wanted to make a YouTube agency. I even have a contract written up. But I had to stop planning to do any of that because real life stuff happened in my own life personally, right? So now I'm trying to double down on my YouTube channel and doing everything I can in my own personal life, get my life in order, because I'm dissatisfied and I'm tired of pretending to not be dissatisfied with where I am currently. I'm sick of trying to be satisfied and accepting of my current situation. It only makes me complacent. I'm stagnating. I don't feel pressure in my life and I want it. He's saying to live by example and to take real personal action.
Recently, I shared about how I go to a gym, and I've been going since I was 18. And for years, I would push in all the chairs, and the chairs would just be all over the place the next time that I went there. And now it's been long enough that I walk in there, and for the majority of the time, the chairs are always pushed in.
Yeah.
Here at my apartment complex, the mats, whenever you walk into a door, they're like in the most obscure place possible. They are never where they're supposed to be. And again, I've lived here for, 4 years. The mats are now pristine because I have been adjusting them every single time. And I think it caught on. Whenever I look at, say, trash on the ground, or the mats destroyed, or, all of these different little things, chairs not pushed in.
I mean, all of these little things also build character. I mean, we can't pretend that Damon is like this because he's OCD or compulsive or whatever it may be. I feel like he just lives a certain way and he's so dedicated to it that he can't help but do this. That's discipline. That's character that's been developed and built for years. And he's saying the impact of taking your own personal action and doing what you can, leading by example, is inspiring for others to do the same. And I agree.
Or a table left dirty, or, you name it. It wasn't private equity that did that. It wasn't corruption. It wasn't greed. It wasn't all of these other things that we want to point our fingers at. It was us. At the gym in my bathroom, there is nothing but paper towels all over the floor. That came from people not being present in their life and not having the care and the discipline to be able to take action. We're not going to take action in terms of, leading some sort of protest in the streets to stop private equity from buying homes if we can't even pick up the trash on the ground. And we can't even agree if it's important to pick up the trash on the ground. And so again, it's what Mr. Rogers said, look for the helpers. If you look for the helpers, not only will it give you hope and inspiration to be able to make change, but it also starts to make a difference. If we are all doing what it is that we can, if it's as small as pushing in a chair, or if it's as big as, changing the dynamics within your corporation or your company.
Or even at a grander scale, a movement. Whatever it may be, anything works. Even if you don't find value in your own life, put value in it by doing something in service of somebody else for a good cause.
I think that both of those are doing a great impact. And so I don't want you to leave this thinking, well, we're doomed. There's nothing that we can do. I do think that I think it's almost inevitable that we will see an economic collapse. I don't think that that's going to be like, we're eating bugs and living under trees, but I don't think that it's going to look good.
No, it's not going to look good at all. It won't be as harsh as probably maybe the Roaring '20s or the Dust Bowl, whatever it may be. But it's going to look similar to that.
But that doesn't mean that I don't want to be a part of the change and the movement that gets us out of that and begins to rebuild a society for the betterment of future generations. With that,
not only for the betterment of future generations, but for the detriment of those who deserve it.
Being said, I really hope this was able to provide some value to you. If it did provide value,
it provided a lot of value to me. I agree so much with Damon Cassidy here. I do. It's a phenomenal video, and seeing the passion that he puts in this video is really inspiring. This has been therapeutic for me, honestly. Just watching this video, being angry. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I don't even know if these videos are good or not. I'm not even sure if my words are reaching out to anybody or if I'm even articulating or explaining myself properly, but I hope I am. I hope this is valuable to at least someone.
So that he cannot.
It's crazy that Damon Cassidy brought up data centers. More perfect union. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope to see you in the next one. And hopefully I'll be feeling better next session, next recording session. Bye-bye.